Osman Touré was crying from the pain of repeated beatings and torture as he dialed his brother's cell phone number. "I'm in prison in Libya," Touré said in that August 2017 call. "They will kill me if you don't pay 2,500 dinars in 24 hours. Within days, Touré's family transferred the roughly $550 demanded to secure his freedom from a government detention center in Libya. But Touré was not let go. Instead, he was sold to a trafficker and kept enslaved for 4 more years. Touré is among tens of thousands of migrants who have endured torture, sexual violence and extortion at the hands of guards in detention centers in Libya, a major hub for migrants fleeing poverty and wars in Africa and the Middle East, hoping for a better life in Europe. The 25-year-old Guinean, along with 24 other migrants, spoke to the Associated Press aboard the Migrants, a rescue vessel operated by the medical aid group Doctors Without Borders in the Mediterranean off Libya. Most had been held in trafficking warehouses and government detention centers in western Libya over the past 4 years.
The European Union has sent €455 million to Libya since 2015, largely channeled through UN agencies and aimed at beefing up Libya's coast guard, reinforcing its southern border and improving conditions for migrants. The practice continues unabated, and U.N. commissioned investigators said in a 32-page report last week that policies meant to push migrants back to Libya to keep them away from European shores ultimately lead to abuses, including possible crimes against humanity. Hundreds of thousands of migrants hoping to reach Europe have made their way through Libya, where a lucrative trafficking business has flourished in a country without a functioning government, split for years between rival administrations in the east and west, each backed by armed groups and foreign governments. On paper, the detention centres are run by the Directorate for Combating Illegal Migration, which is overseen by the Interior Ministry and Libya's interim authorities, who took power earlier this year under UN auspices to carry out national elections by the end of the year. But on the ground, notorious militias remain in control, according to migrants and the UN investigators. Migrants are detained for indefinite periods without an opportunity to have the legality of their detention reviewed, and the only practical means of escape is by paying large sums of money to the guards or engaging in forced labour or sexual favours inside or outside the detention, the UN report said. Spokespeople for Libya's government, the Interior Ministry, the Directorate and the Coast Guard did not answer phone calls or respond to messages seeking comment. Touré, the youngest of 7 siblings abandoned by their father, said that as an adolescent he watched others from his small Guinean town of Hindia make it to Europe and help pull their families out of poverty. He began his own attempt in March 2015, taking odd jobs along the way to finance the trip. Traffickers held him captive for months twice, in Niger and Algeria, before he crossed into Libya in April 2017, he said. 4 months later, Touré embarked from Libya, only to be intercepted by the Coast Guard and returned to Tripoli. At the port, he and other migrants attempted to flee but were caught by security forces and taken to the Al Nasra Martyrs detention centre in Zawiya. That's when the torture started. He described how guards would hang them upside down and whip their bare feet. At times other migrants were forced or given incentives to take part in the violence. "A migrant from Ghana refused to beat us, but there was a Cameroonian who was really cruel," Touré said. His second week in prison, 6 guards approached him. One slapped him hard on the right side of his face. The rest kicked and beat him. Then he was handed a cell phone and ordered to call his family. 10 others in the cell were forced to do the same. 3 were taken out by the guards in the next few days. "He doesn't know what became of them," he said. The money sent by captives' relatives was usually transferred via Western Union or an informal system of personal accounts to a trafficker in coordination with the guards. In some cases, like Touré's, families sent money to the detained migrant and guards took them to withdraw it. Touré was taken from his cell 3 days after the phone call. He thought he would walk free. Instead, the guards sold him to a trafficker in Zawiya. He spent the next 4 years enslaved, working in the trafficker's warehouse. Finally his luck changed in September when the trafficker's wife took pity on him and persuaded her husband to set him free, he said. Within days he was on a small inflatable boat with 55 others attempting the Mediterranean crossing. Overladen, the boat did not make it far. Those on board were rescued by the Migrants 48 nautical miles off Libya's coast. They were taken to Sicily, where Italian authorities permitted the rescue ship to dock on September 27 and let the migrants apply for asylum. They could still be returned to their home countries if their requests are denied. Touré and other migrants said that besides plain cruelty, there was racism behind their abuse in Libya. The UN report found the same, that black sub-Saharan Africans were likely to be subjected to harsher treatment than others. Libya isn't a safe place for black Africans, Touré said. The point of arrival at one of Libya's ports was the first opportunity for Libya's security forces to extract payment from migrants trying to reach Europe. Mohammed, a Moroccan, also said he was released at port in 2020 by handing over 3,000 dinars. Both men gave only their first names out of fear for the safety of family members still inside Libya. The Libyan Coast Guard, which is trained and equipped by the European Union, has intercepted some 87,000 migrants in the Mediterranean Sea since 2016, including about 26,300 so far this year, according to UN figures. But only about 10,000 are in detention centres, according to the UN Migration Agency, raising concerns that many are in the hands of criminal groups and traffickers, and others are dead. After he argued over the bribe, he was beaten at the police station and suffered a broken leg. Detention centre guards then handed him over to a trafficker, who enslaved him for over a year. He said at the heart of the abuses against migrants remains the question of who can be held accountable. The UN report did not name suspects, saying more investigation is needed to determine who was culpable. But migrants and others inside Libya say the issue is clear-cut. It's the militias and warlords who have become powerful government figures in many areas.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.